Welcome to Behind the DM Screen. This is the weekly podcast where we discuss tips, tricks, and pitfalls of being a dungeon master. Today on the podcast, we are making our own 12 custom classes for Dungeons and Dragons because the D&D classes suck.
They're garbage.
No, we don't really believe that, but we at WorldSmith, we believe deeply in homebrew.
Yes, we do.
Part of the reason why we started the company is because we love bringing new stuff to the table players have never seen before. And we are very shortly going to be launching a class generator where you can build your own custom classes on WorldSmith. So we thought we'd get ahead of the curve and basically pitch to each other what classes we would love to see in D&D. We will end this video with 12 classes, to say that it's fully playable, we don't have all the rules built out yet, but it will essentially be a fully playable version of 5e with 12 new classes.
We're making our own player's handbook right now. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just plug it into WorldSmith once that generator's out, and we're good to go.
Yeah, 100%. And this game will definitely be objectively better. Okay, well, how do we want to do this? We tend to roll initiative. Should we roll initiative and then just go in that order one at a time?
That sounds great to me.
If one of us has the same class as someone else, then we all have to boo them incessantly. I got a 16.
I got a 3.
Let's see what I get.
7. Okay, so me, you, and then Cameron.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Do it.
Which one should I do first?
Yeah, I want to do like the boring ones first.
Yeah, start with the worst one.
Start with the worst one? Okay, this is the one I'm feeling least confident about, but I quite like it. Okay, so this class is the Novice.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason why I came up with this class is because I think a lot of my favorite fantasy stories, the titular character is often actually really bad at adventuring, right? Like Luke Skywalker is like a bad Jedi. Like he does no idea what he's doing.
Sucks.
Frodo sucks.
He's the worst.
Merry and Pippin, those guys shouldn't even be on the adventure. But then they end up being really critical to the mission, right? Yeah. And so I think it'd be fun to have a playable class in D&D where you basically go in being like, I'm kind of an NPC.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of along for the ride.
A farmer.
Right. Like I'm the farm kid that's amongst like the knights and the wizards and the clerics and stuff. Right. Yeah. So here's some ideas. I think this also combines with the fact that I think lucky is a broken and terrible feat that should not be a feat.
Yeah.
So I think
ability.
It should be an ability. And even I know you love it, but it's like I think it should be an ability of the novice class.
Yeah.
So lucky is not a feat anymore. It's the ability of the novice class. You also get advantage on a variety of saving throws, like particularly like fear and things like that, right? So they're just basically like not as
brave.
They're brave. They're very brave. Yeah. I had this fun idea of maybe short rests replenish more for them, like this idea of like they have like a youthfulness, where it's like
second breakfast.
Everyone else needs to long rest, and they're like, I can take a short rest and actually go do something else while you all are sleeping or something.
Oh yeah, nice little side quest.
Yeah, totally. Or they could have multiple abilities like second wind or something, where you just kind of like I get a little hit point boost, or like I get a little action surge.
They get a bigger adrenaline rush because it's something they're not as comfortable with.
Yeah, totally. And then for like some subclasses, I had the idea like companion, which is very like the Merry and Pippin, where like when you start the game, you just pick another person and you're just like, I'm just here for that guy.
That's cool. I like that a lot.
That's great.
I think with like Frodo, one of his cornerstones was like his magical items. Like, he had Sting and he had his Elvish chain armor, his mithril armor, and I think it'd be cool if like, how artificers at higher levels, their power like scales with how many items you are attuned to. I think that'd be really fun to do with the novice too.
Well, my second subclass is spoiled. Which is just you have a bunch of stuff.
Just more.
Like you don't get any. You don't get any abilities. You just like everybody's just like, why the hell does he have that? And it's just like, well, he gets to start the game with the one ring, and everybody's like, well, that's broken. And it's like, but he has no class abilities.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot.
That's great.
I would totally play that.
Oh man. Or start the game with like 4 magic items.
Yeah, totally.
Just like broken.
Or you just have like a bunch of money, and it's just like everyone in the party has to do what you say. And it's just like, gosh darn it, like
you're the patron. Exactly. You're the sponsor of this adventure party.
And you've got like a bunch of energy, like you're always short resting, and you're like, come on guys, like let's go to the next dungeon. Everybody's like, this guy sucks. And then the last idea I had for a subclass was hopeful, which is like the Luke Skywalker subclass. And I just had this funny idea. It doesn't quite work. It only works in a game where you truly start from level 1.
Yeah.
But I have this funny idea of like, what if like levels 1 through 5, your abilities like only marginally get better. Like you're kind of bad.
Yeah.
But then you get to like level 10 and suddenly everybody's like, wow, his abilities are getting really good. And then you get to level 20 and it's just the most broken character build ever. Like it's basically like if
The
you
real
can play,
slow build,
if you can
yeah.
play the character from level 1 to level 20,
Yeah.
by the time you get to level 20, you're like this multi-classed god that's like, well, now that I've been on these adventures, I'm
Yeah.
insanely powerful.
Yeah.
But for the first like 5 levels,
Right.
you get like D4 hit points and like you don't get bonuses to your proficiency bonus and stuff like
Every
that.
min-maxer's favorite class would be that because the potential for like ultimate
yeah.
power is just
Yeah,
so
there would
high.
have to be some caveat of like you can't.
But you couldn't multi-class on it. You have to take it the whole
Yeah,
way.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, it would kind of suck if you multi-classed, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? 'Cause
You just get no boost for the
early
first
on
5
abilities.
levels.
Yeah, totally. So, anyways, there's my pitch, the novice.
I love that.
That's
yeah.
really fun.
Thank you.
that's
Bravo.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to like critique it or anything, or just jump right into the next one?
Give it a rating.
Ooh, I mean, I like
Yeah, let's give it a
lot.
rating.
Should we
Let's
rank
give it a
them?
rating.
Let's
Yeah.
get- we
mean-
should get a piece of. Here, I'll just do it on my phone.
All right.
Because I have a rating in my mind for this. I liked it a lot.
I liked it a lot.
Because let's see,
too.
there's 12 of these, so we can do S.
Oh, are we
A,
gonna put it
B,
into our tier list?
Let's
and
do
stuff?
it.
C, D. There's no E, right?
No, just
F. Isn't that enough? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so two in each. What
Two
do you
in
guys
each.
think? What do you guys think? I can't vote because it's my own.
I say we can move it around too for
Okay,
this
all
one.
right. It doesn't have to be a blind ranking.
I'll say like just like off the top of my head, I'm gonna put this in A.
I like
I
it
really
too.
like
I was
it.
gonna say A
Oh,
also.
okay. Wow. Well, that was my worst idea. So prepare yourself. For
Oh,
the next
shoot,
next three.
man.
All right.
All right.
Go ahead, Matt.
I'm gonna start. So with one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So this one, I really have always hated like dark magic and in D&D because I feel like everything's just like, all right, you're a warlock or you're a wizard, and it doesn't really change if you're like evil that much.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like you can select different spells.
like where this
And
is
I've
going.
always like hated necromancers in D&D.
Same.
I know.
mean, I always play as them, but they're not as good as they should be.
Exactly, right? And it's just like, okay, yes, I get it. You just are essentially using your spell slots over and over and over again to like have this like, I don't know, group of 12 things that you have. But I just have never really liked that much. So I created a class called the Unbound. And the Unbound is just
good name.
somebody who's like obsessed with more power at like any cost kind of a
Totally.
deal, right? So very similar to like a wizard kind of a concept, but
This is cool. Though. I like it.
yeah, and just as you grow, initially there's like huge boons, and there are boons the whole way. But as you get into later and later levels, it actually starts to hurt you, and you like start to like lose sanity and like go crazy.
That's cool.
And it can impact your party
Yeah.
or you.
I
You know,
like that. It's like
but
it's
are
like the
more
Emperor
powerful.
Palpatine build.
It's exactly that, right? So I had 3 subclasses. The
Okay.
Dark Adept. So this one is more like dark magic. These are more flavor than anything, but like dark magic kind of a thing. And this is more like it hurts your HP, and you have to like sacrifice people that are close to you as you like go later.
Cool,
on,
cool.
kind of deal,
Yeah, I
right?
love that.
And then, and I forgot to mention this just in the class overall. Initial levels, you essentially just have the same spells that you typically would, but all of them are better. So like you get increased range, you get slightly increased damage up until like level 3. And then once you're at level 3 and level 5, you get more spells that are just for you. Kind of like Force Lightning kind of deal. Kind of,
Yeah, cool,
and,
cool.
And then as those kind of start to come, it starts to require the sacrifices. So at the beginning, it's just nice, you know, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
great,
yeah.
you know. But later on, the second one is Blood Reaver. So this is more like stealing sanity and like blood, like doing blood magic kind of a thing. And this is like, as you progress later on, like it actually like you might go crazy and like start hurting the people around you.
Yeah.
And then the final one was because I hate necromancers. This
Yeah.
is just a necromancer build. So I called it Death Binder. So this is more of like a souls kind of contract thing, and you lose more and more of your soul to someone. I don't want it to be like, to a warlock, like a specific entity, but I was almost thinking of it as like, I don't know, like the dark side kind of a deal,
Yeah,
where
sure.
like you just lose more and more of yourself. At the end, you're almost like a husk kind of a thing. So
interesting.
anyway, that
This
was
is
my
great.
Cool.
I
Yeah.
like it a lot. I do think D&D's missing some like a good dark magic build.
Right.
Like I think honestly the best way to do a dark magic build is I think to do an evil cleric
Yeah.
honestly. But then you don't kind of get that sense of like that a wizard has of having like a big spell list and being able to kind of pull off like these big machinations and super powerful spells and stuff like that.
Like in terms of like magic, I feel like, or flavor, warlocks are where it's at, but then they can only cast like 3 spells.
Exactly.
It's like, where's your power at?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And I love the idea of like I have a slightly similar thing in one of mine, but I love the idea of like being able to make spells stronger by sacrificing hit points or by like sacrificing creatures or other things like that.
Yeah.
No, I
That's
like
very
it.
cool.
Yeah, sacrificing
very
life
cool.
force. It reminds me
Yeah.
of the Blood Hunter a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, where do we want to put this?
We can move them around because I like this a lot, guys. This is going to be hard.
I know. We
How
can
are we
only
going
have
to rank
2
our
in
own?
each slot.
We can also put
is
them wherever we
brutal.
want. Like, we don't have to do all 2, 2, 2, 2.
We could have like 3 or 4 A tiers.
But I like doing 2, 2, 2.
What was it called again?
It was the Unbound. Yeah.
I would put this in A. I think it's great.
I just like cautiously. I'm gonna put it in B or C.
The worst ones, right?
Dang. Okay. Well, we can move them around afterwards. All right. We can put it in B, I guess. But I think
put
it's
it in B.
fun. I would play as it.
I would play as all of mine, so I'm sure they're all great. But
All right. Go ahead, Cameron.
All right. Starting with. Okay, so I'm gonna start with one that I feel like one of you guys might have also made.
Okay.
And it's actually a feat already in the game, but I feel like it deserves its own class.
Okay.
And that's obviously the chef. Okay. I
that's
think
a great
that there
one.
should be a
Yeah.
chef class in the game.
I do like this. I don't have it on my list.
I don't have this either.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
I thought you were going to say the pet master, but that might be coming up later.
That's coming up later.
Okay.
That's his last one. That's his
saving
S
it
tier.
for the
Yeah,
end.
of course. F tier. No, so the chef, they cook delectable meals for yourself and your teammates.
I do love
that
this
offer
idea.
a variety of support benefits.
That's great.
So I would integrate a recipe system where,
totally.
depending on like which biome you're in, whenever you take a short or long rest, you like roll to see which ingredients you
can
collect,
harvest and stuff.
then you can
Totally.
like make different recipes with like, you know, the ingredients you collect, and each recipe has a different, you know, result, like a different benefit.
Totally.
And you can save up your ingredients to cook up like a master meal for like that super boss fight.
Totally.
I just think that'd be like
Totally.
super duper fun. And then for the subclasses, you'd have like different genres of food, right?
Amazing.
And so like there's a pastry chef that focuses on like support type, meals, and then you have like a curry chef who's like making spicy food that allows like fire breathing and things like that.
Amazing.
I just think it'd be
Yeah.
like a really fun support class that focuses a little bit more on like the out of combat engagement.
Totally.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so in Babel, like the RPG that I've
Yeah.
created, cooking is a decent part of it. Like
Sure.
like it's kind of important, and you'd be amazed at like how like excited people get about basically just running a cooking simulator with their friends. Like people
Yeah.
literally love to like just sit around the table and be like, what kind of ingredients you guys have? And
Yeah.
everybody like looks at their inventory and they're like,
Yeah.
oh cool, we're gonna make a mushroom, carrot, this and this thing, and it's
Yeah.
gonna give you these and these buffs, and everybody's like, this is amazing, we love it. Like, and I'm literally like, we're literally just a bunch of grown adults sitting around pretending to cook food, and everybody's stoked.
Right. I made this exact same system for a barbarian chef in my current campaign.
Cool.
And they eat it up. They're constantly asking like, what biome are we in? Can I harvest like these ingredients
Totally.
from it?
That was gonna be my next question. I was like, because I love the idea. The only thing is, how do you do like gathering? And is it just shopping, or like
It's
you're
just
in
a bunch of
biomes?
lists, and then you just roll like a d6.
Yeah,
or
just a bunch of
D8.
randomized lists.
Yeah.
Well, one thing too that I feel like a lot in D&D, and it surprises me that D&D doesn't have a better system for this, is like, not so much with like small creatures, but like when people kill a dragon, I feel like inevitably someone in the party is like, I want to harvest something from the dragon, right? Like I want to like take its horns or like its claws or its
really
scales
big
or something. And it's like, that's interesting. And then you can have them, I don't know, turn it into an item if you're feeling creative, or sell it at a town or something. But like, it would be nice to also have a secondary list too of like what you can basically get off of monsters.
Something more concrete.
Yeah, totally. Because then it's like, oh my gosh, now I can make this like ultra meal that has like dragon eyes in it, and it gives you this crazy
Some
ability
actual
or something.
benefit.
Yeah,
Not the DM just making something up on the fly. I totally agree with
That'd
you.
be really fun. Oof. The chef.
The chef. Where are we putting the chef?
Oh, man, I kind of want to put in A or B as well.
I think it's going to be B for me, and I'll just say this about it: is I think I would just want to figure out what's my only concern with it is what how does it feel like when you're in a long encounter? Like downtime, perfect, and like prepping for encounters, perfect.
It's like, what are you doing in the middle?
But what do you do in the middle of combat?
You just have a frying pan.
You're just over there in the corner,
just cooking up a meal.
on a walk,
Throwing rice balls into people's mouths from a distance.
like, which again, like not a huge deal. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah, no, I ran. That's why I put it first, because I was like, in combat, what are you doing?
It's tough,
You know, you're
it's
just like
tricky.
feeding people stuff, and
it's tricky.
it's a little
totally.
unpractical. But
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
My next one I'm gonna do is, the witch. I have witch.
I almost did this. I
think
had one
I
written
think I
out
have
for
something
this.
similar to it.
Okay. And here's basically my take on. I mean, first of all, I have multiple players who ask me I would like to play a witch, and then I'm kind of like, well, there's basically. You can do that as any spellcaster. You just decide what your vibe is. You know what
flavor,
I mean?
yeah.
But here was my take on witch, which I think could be really fun. So witches, they have the witch spell list, and they don't have spell slots. They have access to and they don't have to prepare spells.
Okay.
They have access to all of the spells that at that level they can cast.
That's sick.
However, every single spell has to be cast as a ritual.
Oh.
And,
I like that.
And every single spell has to use a consumable component.
How would this work in combat?
I'm glad you asked. You have a familiar or a spell focus.
Okay.
So, and then you can store ritual spells in your familiar or spell
The
focus.
familiar can cast the spells?
You basically cast it through the familiar
Okay.
or through your spell focus if it's a wand or a book or
Oh, interesting.
and then your level determines how many spells you can store
Yeah.
in your familiar or your
Okay.
spell focus.
Okay, so
So
like,
first level, you might only have 2 to 3 spells that you could actually use
Right.
in combat or something, and they're only going to be first level spells.
and you're
right?
you're storing them each long rest, like you're
You cast it as a
casting.
ritual. It stores it in the thing,
I love
and then
the
you
flavor
can
of
hit
that.
it later.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
can cast unlimited spells. There literally is no spell slots. You
Sure.
can cast now. Their components though is important. Like you do have, if the thing says that you need a frog, then you need a frog. So you might
Yeah.
run out of frogs, and then you have to go find more. But theoretically, you could cast an unlimited amount of spells as
Yeah.
long as you have the time and the components to do
Right.
it. Okay.
Okay.
That's basically the basic pitch of it. Here's 3 subclasses I had. You could be a hex witch. Hex witches can cast spells on targets out of range.
Love it.
This is sounding like a class I made.
So like you could basically have a voodoo doll
Yeah.
of somebody, and then there would have to be a limiter of how many you can create, stuff like that. You have a voodoo. Oh, yes, you do. All right. Well, dunce on us. But yeah. And then the other part of a hex witch is instead of using consumable components, you can use hit points.
Yeah. Smart.
So like you could
Yeah.
essentially be like, well, I'm going to take X, 48 damage
Yeah.
to cast this spell, even though I don't have the components, and I'm going to cast Fireball on somebody
cool.
that is 4
So,
miles
yeah,
away from
that's
me.
blood
Yeah.
hunter vibes.
Yeah.
4 miles is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like a part of me is just like, let's just try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
You could be a potion witch, and the potion witch can store spells in potions.
Yeah.
So then that could be maybe another way that you could actually be better in combat. You got these
Right.
potions that then you could drink that could make you invisible or give you these other abilities.
Yeah.
Or potentially you could throw them and it might create
Yeah,
like
a little
aura
Minecraft
effect.
witch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A Minecraft witch. It's totally. And then the last one was village magic, which the village magic witch can fly on a broom.
Oh, I love
Like
that.
at 3rd level, like
Yeah.
she just has a broom and now has a fly speed and stuff like that. Can probably speak with animals, like a couple of those things.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe gains access to some of the cleric type spells like healing, and then like some buffs or like spiritual weapon or something like that. But then would still have to be cast as a ritual, but maybe last longer.
I see.
So they can kind of like put a blessing on somebody that might last for 24 hours or something
nice,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
My idea behind like the overall concept is like a spellcaster that their primary use is like long spells, like
Yeah.
spells that take a while to cast, and then they kind of prepare for encounters where they kind of use up all their slots and then kind of have to like revamp for the next encounter.
No, I like it a lot. I liked it so much that I made something very similar. Should we just like combine these two?
Yeah, go ahead. Well,
classes?
tell me yours.
Yeah,
tell me
you
yours.
say yours. Yeah.
Because I made the subclasses. The class was called the Voodooist, and the whole
Cool.
gist was
Yeah, I
that you
love it.
mark someone as like a bonus action,
Nice.
and now you have them in a doll.
Nice.
And now you can target any of your spells through the doll to like attack them from
That's
like
cool. That's cool.
full cover, for example. You'd be like hiding and just
yeah.
like stabbing this doll in
Yeah.
the back and just like doing a bunch of psychic
Totally.
damage.
Yeah.
And then the
like that.
subclasses were Witch Doctor, which was essentially just like the poisons alchemy one that you came up with. And then Yeah, they're pretty much the same.
That's great.
So yeah, I like the idea a lot. I do think that there should be a witch class.
Yeah, something. Yeah,
Yeah.
something that's a different take on magic. That's just like
Right.
not because yes,
We're missing like the whole witch doctor and voodoo vibe, and like we're just
Totally.
missing all that from the fantasy scheme. And I feel like it's so prime and ready for it.
totally. And I don't think that curses. I don't think D&D does like long term curses very well because
yeah.
it would be very fun to be like, oh, you can go into a town and you identify the king that you're
Right.
trying to trick to do something. Then it's like, oh, I'm a spellcaster who can cast a long term spell on this person, and
Yeah.
they're gonna get increasingly more sick over the course of like a
Right.
week or
Yeah.
something.
And that's also a great quest line, like knowing that the king is slowly like dying.
Right,
And it's
right.
like we got to find the witch doctor who's like
Right.
stabbing the voodoo
Totally,
doll.
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. Okay, where do we want to put it?
All right, I really love this idea. However, I'm gonna push back slightly.
Yeah, please,
it is a little bit hard, I think, to run somebody who's so reliant on like time intensive ritual casting
Sure.
and having to like go and get
Yeah.
components all the time.
Sure.
Because I think like as a bad guy or as like somebody that's
Yeah.
there all the time, super important to have this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're with a party of adventurers and like half of what you're doing is like traveling and combat and
Mm-hmm.
like role play, like you've got to be like, all right, well, I'm actually going to take off for the next day and
Yeah.
like cast 4 spells for half of it, you know,
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
replenish my familiar
Right.
spell slots. And I'm going to have to like go hopefully find these components for the next day, you know,
Yeah, totally.
unless you have a really good, like almost easy way of solving those problems,
Right,
which is the only downside.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I love ritual casting and I use it a lot, like to cast like identify and like comprehend languages and stuff. But it is a little funny. You like walk into a room in a dungeon, and then I'm kind of like, oh, I want to cast comprehend languages. It takes me 10 minutes, which like again, you can just be like, okay, cut to 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
But it does take a funny wind out of the game, where
Yeah.
then like the other players are kind of like, we're in the middle of a dungeon,
are
and
we
then they're kind of
doing?
like, I guess we just sit here for 10 minutes while you
Sure.
cast this spell, which like again doesn't bother me too much, but can be a funny feeling. It can
It
be
is,
a
yeah.
funny feeling of a bunch of players being like, I feel like I should be doing something, but I guess I'll
Yeah.
just sit and wait for you to do this.
Well,
Yeah.
there's the potential too for like that Diablo epic cutscene where like you have the spellcaster like and then like everyone's like fighting a horde of goblins that's like trying to
Oh,
stop
that's
them.
true, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that like never happens, unfortunately. in
Yeah,
D&D.
it's kind of too hard to like time out. I mean, 10 minutes in combat is an eternity. You
forever.
never play a combat that's 10
Right,
minutes
yeah.
long. And
That's
so,
like 100 rounds.
Right, exactly. So I think it often, even a minute in combat is so long.
Right.
So I think it often, I have ever had that happen with like a minute long spell casting where someone's like, we need to cast Magic Circle in the middle of this combat. And then, or not Magic Circle, Teleportation Circle,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah,
which is a minute.
yeah.
And that's fun because you're like 10 rounds of combat. Yeah, we could probably hold them off for 10 rounds. But a ritual spell is often like 10 minutes. And that's kind of like, ooh.
A fix for that could just be maybe the witch is able to cast ritual spells in like 6 rounds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
or
can.
something
Or if you're
like-
in combat,
like
it's
30
sped up
second
or
chant.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like the idea. I think often for me, a lot of times as a spellcaster in combat, like I actually don't think it would change combat that much because like as a wizard, you basically have 2 to 3 spells that are good in combat,
Right,
And
yeah.
then you have a bunch of cantrips,
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think as a wizard, I often do get sometimes a little bored, and not totally, but like not as bored as I get when I'm playing a fighter, to be fair. But like, you kind of do your things, and then you're kind of like, oh, I guess I'll just do like flame bolt again, you know what I mean?
Sure,
And
sure.
and so a part of me isn't bothered by the fact that like the witch just has 3 to 4 spells they can cast in combat. When they're done, and then they
Yeah.
have to like figure out something else to do, because I think that's what it feels like to be a spellcaster in
Totally,
combat a lot
yeah.
of the times, anyways.
Yeah.
But I do agree the downtime is tricky.
Yeah,
Where you have
that
a
is the
player
only
who
thing
like
that's
wakes up in the morning and they're like, excited to do 4 hours of ritual spell casting. And
Yeah.
everyone else is like, we're gonna start the adventure now.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, it's like in the getting component stuff, I feel like works really well if you're in a long-term campaign where everybody's like totally on board with the story. But like if you're running a one-shot or like, stuff like that, I feel like those kind of things start to get
Yeah,
really
you
hard.
start asking your DM like, how many spells
Totally.
can I prep beforehand? And
Okay, totally.
so it's feeling like
We'll put it at the bottom of the list for now.
Okay.
I think I'm not going to worry too much about the letter system, and
Yeah.
then we'll just kind of order
Just
them.
order
Is
them.
it
Sure.
better or
That's
worse
better,
than that
that's
one? And then
better, yeah.
afterwards, we'll end up with a letter list.
Okay,
Yeah,
that works.
So I think we'll put it at the. Do we put it below chef or above?
I'd say below chef, but I do love it, to be clear. Like I think I like the idea
Yeah.
more, but it's just
a little tricky to pull off.
it's a little tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Matt, what you got?
Yeah.
All right. Which one do I want to do next? All right. I'm gonna do this one. This is probably the one that's gonna be the lowest on our list, but I love the idea because I love them so much. I called it the Whisperer, or like maybe the Master of Whisperers.
Do they have to whisper the entire time?
No,
at the table?
but
There's no other class abilities, but you must whisper the entire campaign.
so
You have to stand in the other room.
but this is kind of like think like not Littlefinger, but what's the other guy from Game of Thrones? The eunuch, what's their name?
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Matt,
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
it's been too
know.
long, but I know the guy you're talking about. Yeah,
So
totally.
the whole idea is just
have a
okay.
semi-similar class.
They know everything, like kind of a
Okay,
thing, right? So
totally.
it's like okay, all of them, like for this class in general, gain permanent advantage on history, insight, perception, and arcana.
Okay, cool.
Just like really big buffs in
Super
all of those
foresight.
areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially. And like all they are is like there's different flavors of how they've built up this knowledge.
Yeah.
So there's like one person who's a silver tongue. This is like a subclass, and they're kind of like more public facing. Could be in politics. Could be like in the army, something like that. And they're just like very charismatic. They've got really good persuasion. They've got really good performance, and they can just sway crowds, nullify hostility, like that kind of a jazz. The other one is Shadow Hand, which is my favorite. And this is more like they've got really good deception and like sleight of hand, and they actually have really good stealth and stuff like that. And the final one is the Dreadlord, which is just intimidation given form. Like tons of intimidation
Like
buffs.
Dune, Whisper.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Where just they almost can just make anybody scared, and they've like built up this whole almost like Strahd, where like everybody knows about him, but like everybody's so incredibly frightened of this person, like coming face to face with them almost gives them like a frightful presence kind of a deal. All of them suck in combat though, like so all of them should be pretty weak, but they all have like little mechanics like based on like okay, like I've got the sleight of hand thing. They have different like tools for each of their arsenals that almost give them more control builds than anything else. But as far as things go, they're mostly for like role play and strength there, kind of a deal.
Gotcha.
So,
That's cool though.
That's cool.
I like
Are
it.
you thinking that they're like a full caster with like bard spells, or?
I actually am almost thinking like half caster spells. Like yes, they'll have some pretty 3/4 maybe kind of a deal.
Sure.
I won't say that they're like as powerful as a wizard or like warlock or anything like that in the end. But it's just more just their ability to build out like for example, the Silver Tongue can like build small armies. The like Thieves Guild one can build Thieves Guilds,
Sure.
And it's more just like their connections become their power. And like you can call on those things. So if you know you're going to go into a combat, you can like pull out like 3 or 4 thieves or something like that. Or if you really need help with something and there's like a heist or something, you can like be like, all right, I can get one person to help us do this kind of a deal.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
something like that.
I deeply miss D&D systems that have like vassals and people that you hire to do stuff. I think it's very fun, and I think the idea of being like, oh, I've got 20 NPCs that I can call on to come join me in
I
combat.
tried
is
not
a
to
fun
go
idea.
too warlordy because I know you love that, so I figured you might do that.
I didn't actually.
But,
but I did love
so
that.
the Silver Tongue one does kind of end up being like almost like a little warlord.
But I like the idea that they're kind of bad in combat.
Yeah,
like that
horrible
they like
in
have
combat,
that they because then I think it's like it's less of like, oh, like I'm a barbarian, but also I get a bunch of barbarian berserkers that fight with me. It's literally like if I don't have this long swordsman come and
die.
protect me,
Yeah.
I will die. Which I like.
No, that is fun. One small pushback I have is in Marvel D&D that I've been running. I ran into this issue where there's a lot of characters in Marvel who have the ability to just like charm people and like make them do what they want. Yeah. And I found it to actually be really problematic in the game because the second I introduced a system where it's like your words can command people to do things, it like nullified boss fights because they were able to just like charm people, and then it would like all of a sudden the boss fights like turn was wasted or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's like my only small pushback, but I do like the thought of like an out of combat skill monkey that's specifically just for like lore and persuading people, which is kind of barred already, but like no, I like the class in general.
Well, and I think that like if it was me, and I have a similar a thing here that I could talk more about along these lines, but I think I wish that there was a class that had more expendable, like I think it's tricky because you get like persuasion is a skill, right?
Yeah.
And so if you get to this point, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, but like if you get to this point where someone's always getting plus 12 to persuasion,
right,
always rolling above 20s, you almost just kind of feel like, man, every time they talk to somebody. But I think if
that's
you had,
totally how I built this too. It was just like a bunch of advantages and like buffs. So
on the other hand, though, like I think if you had an expendable amount of uses, where you're like once every short rest, I get to do this, like I get to basically say, hey, I have dirt on this person, so I can blackmail them, but I can only do that once every short rest. You know what I mean, or something like that. Sure. So it's not like every single guard I meet, I can just be like, move out of my way, move out of my way, move out of my way. It's like you kind of have to save it up for the correct person, and then maybe they have to make some kind of a wisdom or charisma saving throw to see if it's actually effective or something. Like I think there's ways that in general D&D I think could gamify persuasion, deception, charisma in a way that makes it feel like more satisfying, like wow, I really overcame that challenge, and also not kind of broken in that way of like wow, this person could just convince anybody to do anything.
I want to hear yours because I love that idea of making it like usage based.
I have, well, so mine is kind of it's a totally different take, but it's
I have something similar too.
Interesting. Okay, so
Ooh, all of us, we're all uncreative.
Well, my take on this is I call them the scuttler.
Okay, yeah.
And this came from the idea that in a lot of classic fantasy, there's basically a fiend that's with the group.
Gollum.
It's Gollum.
Yeah.
Or if you've read the Terran Wanderer series, it's Gurgi. Or it's like, and I sense that like, I think a lot of people have troublemakers at the table in D&D. They have people who want to be mischievous. And I think D&D should just make a class for that.
That's a great idea.
Because then you can just channel that energy into actual playable rules. So here's my concept for the Scuttler. They have a lot of skill proficiencies. Yeah. Like they're good, potentially good at deception, good at stealth, good at survival. Like they're a golem. They're a little character that crawls around. I gave them a fun ability called Barely Worth the Time, which is essentially every enemy that tries to attack them essentially does a mirror image roll to see if they even notice them.
Oh, that's great.
So it's like seeing a squirrel on the battlefield.
Like you have a character that just has really low hit points. Yeah. Like they probably can't wear armor or other things like that too. But their buff is that people just don't notice them. Like you get into a combat and people just forget they're there. Yeah. And then I gave them a mean ability that again would make people rage quit probably, but called Slippery Fingers. And I would just wonder if you're just like you can like. There's a chance that you were just taking stuff from other people in your party at all times. Like that literally when someone goes and looks in their pack, you can once every long rest be like, I want to see if I actually have that item instead of them having it. And I roll a thing and it's like that item's not in your pack anymore. That other character has it instead.
Just takes out this artifact level magic item.
But again, if you locked it into a certain amount of times you can use it for rest and you lock it into a skill check, like or some kind of a saving throw, then I think, again, it channels a lot of people already try to do this all the time at the table, right? People already try to be, I want to use, now I'm forgetting the sleight of hand. I want to use sleight of hand to like take something out of this other player's backpack, and everybody's all grumbling and like, this is dumb, like, why are you doing this? But if it was an ability, then I think people would be like, you pick that as your class. Sure. Like, I get to cast spells, and you get to do that.
Right,
and then I had some subclasses, like a guide, which is very like Gollum-esque. Like, essentially, they get bonuses at knowing the geography, knowing which way to go. Like, you could have some built-in game effect to, like, you get to a crossroads in the tunnel, and the scuttler might just actually know the way to go.
And they, I like that.
Or pathetic was one, which, and this is what tied into your thing, is I was like, what if in a similar, you know, like superiority dice for fighters, you give superiority dice to them, but it's a charisma based thing that like allows you to basically almost kind of cast spells that force people's hands, like Gaze or something, where like somebody has to do something for you for the next 8 hours, or memory loss, like somebody just forgets this thing happened, and it's not a spell. It's just like you're so pathetic and whiny and like that like, and you. But again,
manipulating them.
You're just manipulating, but you only have so many of them. The superiority dice, like they replenish, and you have a certain amount of like stratagems that you can use, basically just convince people to do stuff. And then I had one that's straight up a turncoat. And it's just like just built-in game abilities.
Betrays people all the time.
Well, built-in game abilities where you can request information from the GM on people's backstories. Yeah. You can request information from the GM on what like the big bad is doing. Yeah. And like the GM is compelled to tell you certain things. And then I think just write in some better PvP rules. Like just literally be like, as a turncoat, you can like take this course of action. You know what I mean? And it might initiate a little PvP interaction,
right?
But then set it in a little slightly safer boundaries. Again, make it feel like this is something you get to
them
do.
Alone, yeah.
This is something you get to do because you've picked the turncoat class.
Right.
And then when that little interaction is done, the quest continues. You know what I mean? Because I think, again, like, there's so much of this that already is kind of happening at the table where people basically play a rogue or they play a dark cleric or something or a warlock, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to join the big bad. And I would just rather like channel it through a pathetic little, and then I would put like a thing in here too that's just like, as a scuttler, you can play as you can play as any creature that's CR1 or lower.
Yeah.
So you could be like a goblin, or you could be a rat, or you could be like, you could literally just
that's kind of fun.
Just pick, like, you can just be a weird, because I do feel like
really
I get a lot of, you could just be a weird little thing if you want to.
And that makes it a lot more believable, like some of those other
because I love the idea of like a party of like again, very Lord of the Rings-esque, but like a party of like a wizard, a barbarian, and this, then you've just got this little goblin that's just like, this way, my lords, you. And it's like constantly stealing stuff from people.
That sounds super fun.
Sorry.
Admittedly, I feel like if someone were to choose the Scuttler in my party, I would be like, no.
Exactly. It's the
Stop
class.
it.
It's the class that makes DMs like rage quit.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Where imagine a game where there's like 3 scuttlers. Like it's just, now the game's just out of control.
Yeah. I love it.
That's super fun. Should I tell you my seer type class?
Totally.
They are called the Seer. They peer into the future, altering potential dice outcomes. So we're talking about that one wizard subclass, right?
Yep.
However, their subclasses that's where you get very specific, where it's essentially each subclass has a different like wild magic chart, but it comes in the form of telling fortunes or foreseeing the future. So there's like the Doomsday Caller subclass or the Fortune Teller subclass, where you can like read someone's fortune, and the dungeon master gets to have the job of making sure that fortune comes true, whatever it is, no matter what, it has to come true.
That's so awesome.
And so they kind of like guide the campaign in certain directions by like reading fortunes or calling the future, and
so funny.
And then like warning everyone like, someone's gonna die, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And,
walk around with signs. Yeah.
So that was my little like fortune tellery type class, but it sounds
fun.
like all of our 3 classes are kind of
because so you had a seer. We have the seer, the scuttler, and the whisper, Lord of Whispers, or
Lord
something.
Of Whispers,
Yeah.
something like that.
Whispers.
All right. I kind of like Scuttler the best.
Why, thank you.
I feel like Scuttler should be at the top of that list. Or I guess I would probably put it below Unbound in mine.
Yeah.
I love Scuttler.
I think Scuttler's fun, but it's a little potentially game breaky.
Yeah. It does feel like a gimmick class, but you know, it's funny.
But it can be fun.
Yeah.
I like. Let's see.
Just being able to play as Gollum. I think in like the best case scenario, it'd be a really fun like rogue subclass. I think. There's probably a world where you can make it a rogue subclass, but I like Scuttler.
And I think a way that because I think one thing that the thing that I like about it, not to pitch my own idea harder, but like I think what's a problem with a lot of people who cause chaos at the table is that it doesn't feel like they're doing it at the expense of anything else. Right. It feels like, well, I'm like, you have all these abilities, you're great in combat, and then you just use those, you're just wasting these abilities on like fighting us or stealing our stuff. Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Whereas I almost like this idea of like, if you want to be a troublemaker at the table, you have 24 hit points, an AC of 9.
Yeah.
And if you get caught, if a monster does see you and catches you on the wrong foot, you will be killed. Yeah. Because it almost just kind of then it's just like, oh, well, I don't want to be that player. Right. Like it would take all these people who deeply want chaos at the table, and it gives you a choice of just like, if you want chaos at the table, you play a weak, sniveling little creature.
Sure.
If you don't want chaos at the table, you play a noble hero who's actually good in combat and can fight stuff.
And also, it allows them to be chaotic with the other players and make other people mad and get that rise out of them, but in like a low...
relatively low stakes.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Because it's like I can steal stuff out of this person's pack, but if this person decides to fight me in combat, they probably will win.
Right. Exactly. Right. And like if they see me, I'm just gonna kick them and be like, "Give it back," you know, like kind of a deal.
Totally. Let's see. I personally love Seer because I think it's fun, but I think it's so difficult to play with.
I gave one of my players a fortune teller deck, and they'll just read people's fortunes.
Yeah.
And let's say it's like thief, wizard, and like horde or something. Then I'll just make sure that like a wizard steals something from the party or something like that.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be not as hard as I thought it would be, but it almost always results in like something negative, which is like the downside to a class like that. Is like it's so up to the dungeon master's discretion if they want something positive or negative to happen to the party.
Yeah, totally.
So that's the one thing I don't like about it, is it can fluctuate so much just depending on who you're playing with.
I think I would probably put both of these below Witch.
Okay.
Mine.
Yeah, I'm good with that. We can just remove this little space right here. If my fingers will work. That's weird. Okay.
So how many classes do you guys have left?
I only have one left to pitch.
I have
leaves me
2
with
left.
one.
I have 2 left.
So Matt, do you want
Matt, you
to?
go
I'll
next.
go.
Yeah,
My next one is actually, it has kind of a seer inside of it as a subclass.
Okay.
So my next class is the Scion. So this is more of a kind of your mind is your magic kind of a deal.
Cool.
So the whole idea of this is, instead of spell slots, you have focus points, kind of like key points or something like that, where you just can expend them for different things. So you can like spend points to do things like anticipate danger, gain advantage on saving throws, or just avoid attacks kind of a deal. They do have their own spell list, with some of them being like hold person, detect thoughts, telekinesis, stuff like that. So that's just kind of the overall vibe, and it's almost just like they're a psychic person.
Sure.
So my 3 subclasses were 1, the Oracle, which can peer into the future. And this was actually less for roleplay kind of stuff, but I'm sure you could integrate it really well. But it was more just like, all right, I can predict initiative. I can kind of cast silvery barbs kind of a vibe, where like if somebody's going to attack me or somebody else, I can like see the future and like choose to say no and like take some action to avoid it.
I do like that.
It's really annoying for a dungeon master. Silvery barbs is the kind of stuff in general. But essentially, like, again, a little bit of a weaker character, but that's like they're almost like control in that sense. The next one was Mind Reader, so this is a little bit more role play heavy. So like masters of like mental and social infiltration, like they can have advantage on certain saving throws if they're like reading the minds of their enemies, and they can have like helpful networks and understanding of people just by being there. But it's something you can only do every so often because you have charges for it. And then the final one was telekinetic, and this is more just weaponizing the thoughts.
Sure.
So the other 2 are just more like, all right, I'm avoiding stuff, or I'm using it for role play. This one is like, all right, you get mind blades, and you can do psychic damage pretty constantly. And then just like some higher level spells that come from the wizard spell list. So.
Yeah, that's cool. I think we
cool.
are missing a psychic class.
Yeah.
I think that psychic damage is something that's like hardly utilized in D&D,
totally.
other than just like, it's
And a lot of
this spell
spells
does
have
psychic
it,
damage,
but
nothing's like flavored around that psychic
Oh,
damage.
I
except for,
didn't
like,
say this
rogues.
too, but the telekinetic also like can have like essentially an upgraded mage hand.
Mage hand,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Flip stuff
totally.
around.
I do think an upgraded mage hand is kind of needed.
Yeah,
because it's
I
either
agree.
like I'm casting telekinesis at like what, 4th level spell? I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Where it's kind of like, oof, like,
Yeah.
okay, that's
Yeah.
a big spell. Or you're doing mage hand, and then it's like, okay, I can only have 1 pound of force with this or something. And you're like, I'm going to pick up a very small rock.
Yeah.
Level 20, you can like has Big B's hand at will or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally. I like the Scion quite a bit. I would maybe put it above Chef.
Yeah, I'm down
I
for
think
that.
I would too. Yeah, below
Yeah.
Scuttler.
This is how you spell Scion, right?
I actually did PSI.
Oh, that's right, like psionics.
Yeah.
that makes
I
sense.
might have spelled it wrong though.
No,
I don't know how to
makes
spell
sense.
things. All right, 1 left each.
Yeah.
All right, who's confident that theirs is the best?
Obviously me.
All right,
Obviously,
let's hear it.
I got
Let's
a pretty
hear
good
it.
one.
The Beast Tamer, you guys.
Beast Tamer.
Here it
Come
is.
on. Imagine playing as a Pokemon trainer in D&D.
Yeah,
okay,
that is true.
there is
That's very
there is a Ranger subclass. What was it called? The Beast something.
Beastmaster.
Beastmaster.
Yeah.
So I want a class where you are literally a Pokemon trainer. As you level up, you are obtaining more beasts, And then there's subclasses that allow you to dip into different creature types. So suddenly you're a dragon master, or you are, a demon master.
Oh my gosh.
And you're like, and so you have kind of like a pseudo summoning class, except you only have a pre-selected list of animals or creatures that level up as you level up. And then the idea was whenever like a martial character would get an extra attack, you would get an extra command. And so you're able to make extra commands during combat and have like multiple creatures fighting at the same time. So that's
I think it's great.
That's my
That's
pitch
a
for
great
Beast
class.
Chamber.
No, I think it's great. And like, honestly, I think the reason why like this, I think the Pokemon concept is actually very important because like the reason why Pokemon works is that like the things are not wandering around all the time.
Right.
Like they're able to be carried on the person of the Pokemon trainer and then can basically be released. And they often will have one or two Pokemon that are out that hang out with them while they're traveling.
Sure.
That's like, and I think that's why D&D has really struggled to figure out quite how to do this because it's like at all times you're gonna have like 3 to 2 bears with you and an eagle and all that, and it becomes
massive party.
It becomes ridiculous to manage, and every single one is in combat.
No, I'm imagining you summon these as like a
summoning
bonus action.
works. Yeah,
Totally.
yeah,
Exactly. I think it's really rad, and all the different flavors you could have of it, like you said, like demons or dragons.
I like the
or other
thought
things.
too
Very
of
cool.
like when you choose your subclass at level 3, that's like choosing your starter Pokemon, you know? And it's like, oh, I can choose this baby dragon who's a baby right now, but
That's
when
so
I'm
cool.
level 20, I can ride it.
That's awesome.
You know, or
Yeah.
like this other creature that can swim, or like
Totally,
different
totally.
types of animals. So
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
That's great, dude.
yeah.
This is high.
I would put
This
that
go
top of
high
the
on my
list for me.
Yes.
I would put this top of my list as well. What'd
I
you
do
call
love
it?
novice.
I called
but-
it the Beast Tamer.
It's okay. We can still love novice. Okay, here's mine. This is, I feel like I've talked about this before in the podcast, but I've called the class the Provocateur.
Okay.
Okay.
They have a similar thing to monks, where they can't wear armor, but they have an armor class boost, but based off their charisma, not their wisdom.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
They can use disengage as a bonus action,
Right.
pretty much all times.
I love that they have unarmored defense, but it's based on charisma.
Yeah.
Like, don't hit me.
Exactly. Totally.
Please, no.
Well, we have more information on this. And then you have wiles, which wiles is basically the inverse to bardic inspiration.
Yeah.
So you basically have a certain amount, you throw them on enemies, and then when the enemy tries to make rolls, then you roll dice to
That's
reduce the
awesome.
rolls.
Oh,
so that could be a
awesome.
saving throw, it could be an
Yeah.
attack or something like that, right?
So great.
Yeah. There's 3 subclasses. There's a charmer,
Yep.
which is basically what you're describing. You're someone who's just stunningly attractive. And
Got a sweet. Whoa.
no, exactly. So like I actually like the idea of someone that could potentially delay initiative checks somehow. Like a combat starts and you basically are like, all the enemies take a round or two to just be like, excuse me, what now? Like you
I
can
whip my
you can
hair.
grandstand.
Yeah.
You can grandstand, or you can just stand in front of them and be like, "Now you wouldn't want to fight us, would you?" Like you can essentially
Sure.
grandstand while the party is like,
That's
okay,
cool.
prep this
Stall
or
or
hide
combat,
or something.
yeah.
Like you can stall or de-escalate combat.
Sure.
Like you can use an ability that just gets people to like pause while the party can either escape or do something else, right? The Jester, which the Jester's thing is you enter into I don't even know what you would call it, the dance or the jest or something,
Sure.
and it's like Barbarian Rage.
Yeah.
So you use a bonus action to enter into the jest.
Okay.
And while you're doing it, you can decide the flavor, but you're joking, you're singing, you're playing a song or something like that. It gives you like a bunch, like similar to Barbarians, it just gives you like boosts to AC or like slash it or it makes you resistant to certain types of
Sure.
damage.
Yeah.
And then it draws enemies towards you.
Oh,
like,
that's cool.
Like it just draws
Yeah.
people's attention. And you can use disengage as a bonus action, and you also have these wiles where you can lower stuff. So like
Yeah.
essentially you just become the distraction. Like
Yeah.
the jester just starts jesting and they run off in the corner and all the goblins chase them.
Right.
And this partly came from like, I've often wanted to play a character like this as a bard, but the problem is that bards are like squishy and they're not great at
Right.
combat. And so you want to do this thing where you're like, oh, I'm gonna create a diversion, which feels like what a bard should do, and then you're like, this is backfiring horribly because the diversion
dying,
is working and I'm dying.
But this armor scales with charisma.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you're kind of a tanky.
So you kind of
a little
become
bit.
tanky. You become
Right.
tanky, and you don't have to be amazing at dealing damage, but you just basically are really slippery. Like basically, you enter the jest, and suddenly you're resistant to a bunch of damage. You have a high AC, and a bunch of monsters are trying to attack you.
Yeah.
And you basically are just like dun 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 dun, and like going around, and the dragon's like chasing you through the dungeon while the rest of the party gets to either fight them or do something else. And then the final subclass was the Brigand, which is the more combat focused one. So like you are forced to attack enemies or something, or there's something where you can chain it similar to Barbarian, where like every turn that you do an attack, but then it like strikes confusion into enemies, where like they maybe are either forced to attack you or they don't know what's going on. I also had a fun idea of like if you're within 5 feet, like within touch distance of a spellcaster, when they try to cast spells, they could go wrong, or they have to roll on the magic wild magic table.
Target.
Like you basically are like dashing into combat as just an insane person. Everyone's getting confused. Spells are back, like the spellcaster spells are backfiring and hitting the wrong people. Like
they turn around, there's suddenly like a crackhead behind them. And they're like, "Whoa, what's happening?"
Exactly. Like you're just like a mad person. Yeah,
that's fun.
So like the whole concept for the whole class of the Provocateur is basically just like everyone in combat's going to be looking at you, and you can choose that to be combat focused. You could choose that to be kind of bard charisma focused, or you could choose that to be like the fool, the jester kind of thing. But you're like a tanky combat build that's debuffs enemies and draws attention.
This sounds like a barbarian.
This is
It's a barbarian.
a barbarian.
They're a barbarian, exactly.
There are a lot of similarities between yours and my last one.
Oh, really?
Actually. So
fun.
I talked about this one also on the podcast, and I called it the Trickster.
Okay,
so,
great.
A little bit different, not as much of the buffs to you.
With your arcane trickster build.
Yes, exactly. Very different,
so
kind of. I'm almost imagining like a hobbit that's just super annoying, you know? Like these people are not doing damage at all, but I replace all weapons with trickster tools. And any like in the different types of weapons can be used, like martial weapons have this kind of trickster tool properties. So all of them have different tools. And like they have abilities to like disrupt, distract, deceive instead of kill or cause damage, right? So essentially, like my subclasses are one, the Street Sprite, which essentially their thing is they just don't trigger opportunity attacks. So very similar to yours. They're just very slippery acrobatic people who can like run through combat and just like tie people's shoelaces together or pants people and like steal their weapons and like, you know, just like cause tons of debuffs and disadvantage or like trip people and knock them prone and like that kind of stuff. So just very close quarters mischief, and all of that kind of scales up as you level on. So like getting minor spells that just like you like touch something and just like disappears. So like they're holding a sword, it's just gone, you know? Totally. That kind of stuff. The second one was the Illusionist. So this is almost just like
a magician.
Yeah, like a wizard that has a bunch of illusion spells.
Close up magic.
So kind of,
Actually, no real magic.
So this one, I was more thinking is like, all right, they go to combat, they hide illusion of rock over them, right? Yeah. And they're just like casting illusion spells everywhere to distract people and do a very similar thing. Yeah. And they just, if it's illusion spells, they kind of have more spell slots than normal because it's not as impactful, like as killing people.
Our thoughts on the Trickster is I would put it above Chef, below Scuttler.
I would disagree.
Where would you put it?
For some reason, I just don't like classes that use that much charisma because it feels like it's very much on the DM's discretion, where it's like you can break the game sometimes.
These ones are more acrobatics, like kind of based more than anything. Yeah.
Like I think I like the Trickster a little bit more than the Provocateur because I do like controlling the battlefield a little bit more.
Yeah.
The Provocateur does control the battlefield though. Just with jest and song.
The Provocateur, I do like the Barbarian.
The Barbarian is a very fun idea.
Oh, this is hard for me. Yeah, maybe we do put him above Chef. For some reason, I'm still so bothered by Scuttler being above these two because Scuttler pisses me off.
I love the idea of Scuttler, honestly. What do we have right now?
This is what we have right now. I'll read you the current list. So we have Beast Tamer, Novice, Unbound, Scuttler, Scion. Oh wait, why is Scuttler on there twice? Is there one of these that's missing? Trickster, Chef, Witch, Voodooist, Lord of Whispers, and Seer. How many do we have here?
We're missing the Provocateur.
3, 4, 5, 6.
I think
7, 8.
I honestly think Scuttler belongs above Scion in my book. I really like the idea.
Okay, we can keep it there then. And then where do we put the Provocateur though?
I don't know.
It's like
I like it a lot, but it's my
that
own
and
class.
Trickster
So.
Yeah.
are like so close to each other.
They're very close. We should put them right next to each other.
Side
Okay.
by side.
I obviously like Trickster the most because it's one of my favorites that I
Sure.
built. But
All right, we'll put it here then.
How many hit dice, by the way, would you give the Provocateur? Like,
Not too many.
like a D10 or a D8?
I think it's like, definitely not a D10.
Okay.
Definitely a D8. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
See, I still live in my mind, Wizards still only have D4s hit dice because I haven't quite. I know that they don't when I think about it for longer than 10
Right.
seconds, but I still think that in my
You
head.
feel like they're that much of a glass cannon.
Yeah. So in my mind, like when someone has a D8 hit die, I'm like, damn, they have so
Yeah,
many hit
sure,
points.
strong.
Because I'm so used to. I still think to myself like, oh yeah, like a D4. Okay, here we go. You ready? Okay,
The
these are our 12 classes. I am going to split up Witch and Voodooist just so we have 12.
Do we want to? Let's look at it real quick. Do we want to change anything else?
What I love about this is like none of these are martial classes.
Yeah.
Not one.
Yeah.
D&D does martial classes well.
D&D does martial classes very well. We're very pleased with
They
them.
did a good job. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Our list of 12 WorldSmith custom classes is Beast Tamer. Well done.
Well done, man.
Novice,
Love that one.
Unbound. That's kind of fun. We each got one in the top 3.
Yeah, I love
that's
it.
great. Scuttler, Scion, and Trickster. Provocateur, Chef, Witch, Voodooist, Lord of Whispers, and Seer.
Nice.
Yeah, this is
a
fun.
good list.
It's a
That's
good
a
list.
good
Like
list,
I think
yeah.
overall, I think what we're like responding to is I think D&D. If I was to boil these down into what classes could actually be added to D&D in a fun way, I
Right.
think it needs some kind of dark wizard.
Yeah.
Like we had a witch, a voodooist, the Unbound, and like the Scion, which to me
Yeah.
are all kind of like some kind of more manipulative, dark,
A really
wizard.
different spellcaster.
A different
It's not just
spellcaster.
spells, really.
That can be a little more wicked and tricky, I think, as I think it needs that. And then I think it needs some kind of like fool, trickster, like I don't know, like
I think a chaotic,
just like
in the fight, but chaotic.
and
yeah.
someone that's a little more
NPC player character.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and then I think the Beast Tamer is a great idea. That one I think with very little tweaks I would toss in the game.
There's we're missing a summoning class, and I feel like it's so easy to do it, and they just haven't
Truly.
done it.
Yeah, it would really not be that difficult. And then I think my take on Chef is I just think that Chef, like cooking should just be a thing. They should just add a supplement to the game that's just
or
cooking
some better
or something like that.
potion making,
Better
something
potion
that's
making.
able to buff that.
I mean, I've said this for a long time that D&D needs a crafting system, and
Oh,
it doesn't
absolutely.
have. And that could tie into potion making, cooking, like whatever.
you
it
can
is.
choose
Yeah.
your species, your background, your class. I feel like we're missing something, like some kind of
Something you can make.
characterization.
Yeah, that you're good at. That you're good
a
at doing.
specialty,
Yeah.
that you just do on
A minor support thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, I know how to make X, Y, and Z. I can cook, or I'm good at
Right.
making clothing, or I'm good at
Yeah.
like something, and then you can kind of have your little thing
Yeah.
where you're like, oh, that's cool. I get to
like
do
you
this.
have tools, but we need a system for that. You
Yeah,
know?
totally.
They don't have that. So
And then it was interesting that there was both a couple of people had different elements of like being able to pick at the DM or
Yeah.
get them to like the seer idea
Yeah.
or like the Scuttler being able to be like, you need to tell me something, or like the Lord of
Yeah.
Whispers being like, I actually just like know stuff about
Lots
the
of
world. So like I do
information.
think there is like an informant concept that isn't
Yeah.
quite in D&D of someone
working
that
alongside the dungeon master.
Because
Yeah.
it's tough to like have everything need to be discovered like at the table in a room that you're in.
Yeah.
You know, like it would be really nice because there's so many people. For example, like rogues and stuff have their thieves' cant and stuff, and I rarely use that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, all right, there should be a good opportunity for me to be able to go out and just get information
Yeah.
without needing to like just say, all right, DM, give me this like adventure, and then I'm like in the mayor's
Yeah.
house, and I'm like, then I find something. you
And
know?
Ellen, one thing too that I think is like that I always think about in D&D is that if you make something a playable ability, then other players stop complaining when they can't do it. Like people fighters don't complain about the fact that they can't cast spells,
Right.
Because they're like, I picked this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I do think there are some of these. I think it might be helpful for D&D to kind of recognize there's things that already happen at the table where people are being chaotic and want to mess with the battlefield in a way that's non-combat, or people want to initiate certain PvP interactions, or people want to get the DM to kind of like tell them things, or they, like, and those things are kind of already happening at the table.
Right.
And so a part of me is like, I think if you gamified it, then the player who is really excited about that element of the game picks that. And then the players who don't pick that don't feel like that's like something that is they're missing out on, because they're like, I didn't pick that.
Right.
Like I chose to do, my character strength is in something else, And so I do think there's an element of like table control, because I think we heard that, like with the panel we did with the how to be a better DM guys, where people are kind of like, how do I manage these chaotic players at the table? And a part of me is almost like, I kind of think if you just built a class for chaotic players,
organize the chaos,
slightly, just give it an outlet and some playable rules, then all of a sudden it becomes like a feature of the game and a choice. And then people who don't pick that class, it's a little easier to be like, hey man, like you can't do that, because like you're not allowed to do that, because in the same way that if a fighter's like, well, you know what, I'm going to learn how to cast fireball, you'd be like, well, you can't really.
I mean, Eldritch Fighter, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And then again, you can allow people to multi-class. You can add in interesting subclasses. Like it can become, those things can be worked into it. But anyways.
No, well done.
This is fun.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the WorldSmith class generator launch, and we'll build all these out.
Yeah.
And then we can have
We'll
them
post them, and you guys can all play them.
You can all play as beast tamers and scuttlers and chefs.
Can't wait.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Guys.
See ya.